right, let's get started. Welcome to our weekly production mastermind. My name is Stacy Peterson, and I'm happy to be here with you guys today. Let's get started. As we always do, love to hear from you guys. What's going good? We're at the start of a new year. What's going good so far? Maybe it's how you ended last year. Maybe it's something exciting that's happened this year. Let's get started. Production related. Would love to hear how things are going. You can either unmute yourself. We'd love to hear your voice or type it in the chat, but we would rather hear you share. So, who is ready to go? And if you're able, turn your cameras on. That would be great. Who wants to share their good news?
Hey there. We got people chomping at the bit here, so I'll jump on. My name's Jasmine Wisecup. I have 8-month-old twins, and so I'm just kind of getting things moving again here. And I have a new buyer that I'm working with. So she's qualified and all the things and ready to go. So pretty exciting to be getting moving back in the world of sales with
Yes.
after
Well,
having my two twin girls.
congratulations. Yes. Congratulations on your twins. That's no
Thank
small
you.
feat. So,
Thank you.
and
Thank
that's
you.
awesome that you got a buyer ready to go. Very good. Good share. Thank you.
Hey, I'll jump in.
Awesome. Hey, Richie.
Hi there. I had end of last summer, beginning of fall. Some of you know from other calls, I fell into a niche that I absolutely adore and have connected to because I'm a man of the people. And dicking around with luxury and other stuff, it just didn't fit. And I've placed a lot of renters over the years, and I do a lot of relocation renters, and I've fallen into the amazing niche of affordable home buying, low to moderate income buyers with state and local programs because of an incredible lender that I'm connected to. And I'm now on a very short list of preferred agents. So when people take these classes, they're handed a list of, and when I say these classes, I mean like down payment, buyer assistance, first time home buyer classes. And the way I fell into it was a referral to someone who was able to buy a below market rate luxury condo. And I am now jumped in completely and basically spreading the word to everyone I know. And so as a result of that, I got 2 buyer referrals, one from a family member. So I'm working with a couple looking to buy their first home in an area of Massachusetts just outside of Greater Boston where it is possible for them to actually buy and get into one of these programs. And then, yes, real estate agents, hold on to your chair. I actually got a referral from a lender to me to be the agent of a teed up, pre-approved, ready to rock, low to moderate income buyer who actually has just gotten the word from the lottery on one of the properties they wanted to look at that they should apply and that there's only one other person in front of them. So I have 2 buyers in the works and 2 referrals that I've given to other EXP agents in the works after sitting on my hands in November and December and thinking, is it ever going to get good again?
Yeah, that is such a great share for so many reasons. Number one, just really understanding the programs that are available in your area and putting yourself out there, letting people know about them, letting them know you can help them. You really have this niche that works. And now you're on the list, and now other people are referring to you in the industry instead of, oh, just use this realtor. No, oh, this is what you're looking for. This guy specializes in it. So a really great share.
It's a really great niche because basically what I'm finding from these organizations and, most states and most counties and even some towns have these programs and there's money available for people. And the number one thing I'm hearing as I get to know the people who put on these classes and get to know the organizations is that um, there's not enough people out there, not enough agents educating and looking for clients who could qualify for it. And then B, the other thing I really love about it is it's like we're delivering hope, like to a lot of people who don't think they have any shot at all at owning. It may take them a year, it may take them 2 years. They might have to go through the process of squaring away their credit, squirreling away an extra $100 a month just to hit a little threshold. Like there's one program in Massachusetts where they only need $2,000 of their own money. And I know for some people that's a fortune. But if I told you that if you could save up $2,000 in the next 12 to 24 months and the state could throw up to $50,000 at you and help you get a below rate mortgage and pay your closing costs, I think you'd find a way to come up with $2,000.
Right. Very good. I love it. Such a
Yeah.
good share. Is this, and it's specific to Massachusetts or
No,
Boston or?
I just took the class. I just took a class this morning from the New Hampshire Housing Partnership. And the more I talk to people, the more I find that a lot of states have these programs. And by the way, these programs, many of them are, run through, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and even the IRS has a set of requirements for one of the programs that's out there. It's just check it out. Like just literally type in where you in your state and then your county, first time home buyer assistance programs. You might be shocked at how many options are available. And let me tell you, if you invest the time to learn about them and get to know the lenders that are working with these people, you'll have a whole set of buyers that you might have discounted because you thought, oh, I'm really not going to make much money off doing that or whatever. Don't worry about that. Go out and deliver hope. And you'd be amazed at how people I'm starting to just get a lot of people asking me, well, do you think that we'd qualify? I mean, we're at 120,000 a year. Is that too much? I mean, there are programs depending on where you live for people who make as little as 30% of your area median income to 130%. There are Section 8 home ownership programs. That is crazy.
I love it. Thank you for sharing. That is so good. And it's something everybody on this call can check out. So check out, like you said, your housing authority in your state, in your county, look for assistance programs, look for the lenders that are working with these assistance programs and let them know how you can help and take the classes and get certified, whatever you got to do. And especially if, like Richie said, hey, I didn't have a great December and November. And I was like, what the heck? What's happening? Hey, he took the reins and did something about it. So it's a great share. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. All right. Who else has a positive focus? That was awesome. Let's get a couple more.
I have something.
Awesome. Thanks, Debbie.
So I have a listing in Central Florida. It was a piece of land for 5 acres. And I had someone at the end of December call and ask if the seller would be willing to do seller financing. Unfortunately, they weren't, but I got to talking to them a little bit more, asking if I could help them out with their search. And they said, if I was going to put X amount down, I would buy this property. And they sent me a Zillow lead or Zillow link. And I'm like, well, we can make that happen. So actually, we went under contract January 1st, started the year strong. It's a $870,000 listing. He has his house listed in Pembroke Pines. So we are due to close on that in March.
Wow.
Meanwhile, I went under contract with 3 other houses since then, on the 9th, the 10th, and yesterday. And on the 4th of January, I got a listing, which went under contract yesterday, and I got a listing that I'm writing up right now. So I'm pretty pumped because this is my 3rd full year, going into my 3rd full year. My first year, I was kind of losing hope because I was new to the area. I came from Illinois. I'm now in Central Florida. I didn't know anybody. I struggled. I'll be honest, I made $13,000 and I was like, oh, I don't think I could make this happen.
Yeah.
It's not from the pharmaceutical company salary that I was getting before for the past 26 years. So it was a big, huge change. Last year, I ended up tripling that salary, which shows some promise. And this year, I am almost to, by the first quarter, I might have made what I made last year. If all these,
Wow.
so pretty pumped. Stay positive, everybody. Stay consistent. That's how I've been doing it. Consistency, consistency. I go by Summer Home Group on TikTok. That's where most of my leads are coming from. I do it all organically. And Facebook.
Good job. Thank you for your share. And I think it gives like the whole message so far has been hope, right? It gives all of us hope because sometimes we only see what everybody is doing really well. And both of these agents described, you know what, things weren't always rosy, but I kept going and I found something that worked for me. And I didn't give up and I didn't, kind of sit in my wallow. And now it's turned a corner. So hopefully all of you here are going to see the same if you're just not in that season right now. Justin said, new listing coming on, 2 active buyers, and my pipeline is growing. Awesome. Bethany said, I have 5 getting financed right now and a buyer consult later this week. Perfect. I love it. Good work. All right. So today we are going to do our monthly market report like we do every month. And the thing that I love about this is, we learn more about what the analysts are saying. We learn more about interest rates and how it affects us. We learn more about statistics and how they pertain to what's happening today. So if you see a slide that you like, you can screenshot it. I also dropped the slides in our Facebook group if you're part of that. But do what you can to take some notes and listen, and we're going to talk about it afterwards and see how we can use it to help grow our businesses. So let's get started. Let me change my audio. Wait, I bet you can't hear it. Hold on a second.
Of keeping current minutes.
Can you hear it now?
As usual, we always want you to remember, most agents know what's happening. Good agents understand what's happening. Great agents can explain what's happening. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be going into a really, really good year this year, but I'm not sure that the public is going to understand that as well as we do. So it's crucially important that we look at that bottom line. Great agents can explain what's happening. This is going to be a year, especially because it's a political year. There's going to be all sorts of craziness out there, all sorts of wacky things being said. And a lot of it's going to be about housing, because I think that housing affordability is going to be a main issue in the election. So there's going to be all sorts of wackadoos out there saying all sorts of crazy things. We have to be able to explain that through. This might be, and I know I'm already talking to KCM members, so I'm not trying to sell anybody here, but this might be the single most important year you could be a KCM member, because we're going to get through all the baloney And we're going to be able to report to you exactly what is happening so you can take best advantage of 2024. And by that, I mean, you can help more buyers and sellers make good decisions. All right. As usual, I want you to understand we're going to go through 30 minutes pretty quickly here of a lot of different things. But I want you to make sure that you understand that every Monday morning, we do a deep dive where we take one particular item and we go deep on that item. We spend a half hour just on that one item. I think that this year that's going to be crucially important because we're going to pick the headlines, the confusion that the consumer has, and we're going to do a deep dive on that issue that following week. For example, the last 4 deep dives we've done is the truth about institutional investors, because there's a lot of craziness, even on the political front about that. All right. FISOS expires in the new year. We got you prepared for that. Housing inventory and its impact on home prices. What actually is happening in housing inventory? And how does home ownership impact the family's net worth? Those were just 4 of the deep dives we've done. So please, I'm not saying that you have to be there for the deep dive. It's done every single Monday morning at 11 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Western, on the Keeping Current Matters Facebook page. It's a Facebook Live. And if you missed that, you can go to the Keeping Current Matters page on YouTube. As a matter of fact, if you want to see any of those 4 that are shown right now, that's what you want to do. You want to go to the Keeping Current Matters page on YouTube. So let's go on. And we're going to start with not everybody else's forecast. We're going to talk about what KCM thinks is going to happen in 2024. And we're calling it the year of the 5s. We believe very strongly that 5 will be the handle, meaning the first number of mortgage rates by May. We know that mortgage rates have come down off that 8% number. We actually hit 8.03, and we're down now in the middle 6s as I'm recording this. But we believe pretty strongly that by May, the 5th month of the year, another 5, that the first number, it might be 5.99, but that first number is going to be a 5. And I think that when that happens, the floodgates are going to open. I think we're already seeing more and more business just because we're in the mid 6s. But I think if we hit 5, there's a psychological trigger that will take place, that will be switched, that will cause many more people to get in the market. And that's why I believe that this year, we're going to do 5.5 million in total home sales. That's including existing home sales and new home sales. We're going to do 5.5 million. And ladies and gentlemen, that's a big jump up from this year. Some people are saying that maybe we're a little wacky with that one. And how can we jump from where we are now, which is 3.8 million, plus about 750. So we're talking about 4.5 million. We're going to jump another million sales. Yes, I believe we will. And as far as home appreciation is going to concern, there's a thing that a lot of people talk about, reversion to the mean. And most people misunderstand that. What they think is because prices have been so high, appreciation has been so high over the last couple of years, reversion to the mean means that it has to drop below normal numbers to make up. And that's not what reversion to the mean means. What it means is we're going to go back to what normal numbers are. Look it up. Look up the definition. A lot of people have that definition incorrect. And I do think that we're going to go back to normal types of appreciation will be about 5%. And we'll give you some understanding of what other people think about that issue in a second. Let's start with the 5 will be the handle, the first number on mortgage rates. So we want to jump into mortgage rates immediately. And what we can see here, now we're not doing the daily rate. The daily rate jumped to 8.03. We're doing the weekly rate from Freddie Mac. And we can see the highest that hit was 7.79. All right, sometime in the middle of October. That's not that long ago. And now we're down to 6.61 on the weekly rate. So what we're seeing there was a buildup to the in October all the way to the middle of October, and since that time we're seeing some relief in that issue. All right, and I think that relief is going to continue. It's going to bounce a little bit, but I think it's going to continue on a downward slope. As a matter of fact, Dean Baker, the senior economist at the Center for Economic Research, said it also appears that mortgage rates are now falling again. He's right. They will almost certainly not fall to pandemic lows, meaning 2-3%. Although we may soon see rates under 6%, which would be low by pre-Great Recession standards. So he's also projecting that we're going to see rates under 6%. Now, when we talk about what KCM is forecasting, the year of the fives, I wouldn't run out and start promoting that, because you're going to get a tremendous amount of pushback immediately on that. We're telling you that so you understand that it's going to be a phenomenal year. How you promote this to the public, I think that we have to take that, not make it sound like it's a fear of missing out and we're trying to create a frenzy again. I think that what we need to do is let them know where mortgage rates are. We have to let them know that there's more inventory coming in the market, and we'll talk about that in a second. All right, so we do think there'll be more sales. I don't know that you want to say, well, mortgage rates are going to hit fives and we're going to have 5.5 million in sales and we're going to have 5% appreciation. Not that you shouldn't say that. You shouldn't promote it in a way where we're saying everything's back, baby, and there's a new frenzy starting. Let's calm down and let's bring this along as slowly as we can, us knowing that we're going to have a phenomenal year this year. Let's bring the public along slowly, because you're going to hear a lot of crazy stuff on the other side, especially it being an election year. A marked turn can be expected as mortgage rates have plunged in recent weeks. That's Lawrence Young. A marked turn. And that's exactly what we're talking about, and we're talking about it in sales. 5.5 million in total sales. Now, well, how could that happen, Steve? Well, if mortgage rates are coming down, we also have a situation where one of the biggest challenges in the market right now is there's not enough inventory. Part of the reason there wasn't enough inventory, or hasn't been enough inventory, is because there's been a lock-in. And here's the brand new numbers on the mortgage rates on existing mortgages in the country right now. And what we can see is 78.7% of mortgage rates are less than 5%. That's that lock-in. When rates were 7 going to 8%, nobody with a mortgage rate under 5% was thinking about selling, or almost nobody was thinking about selling and moving on. So what we had to do is concentrate on the lesser percentage that was over 5%, and maybe those between 4 and 5%. Because if they have a lifestyle change or something like that, they would still force the issue. But with rates coming down, now there's not as big a jump. All right, there's not that big jump. If they're at 4% and they jump to 5.5%, and they have a lifestyle, change or something that they want to make a move on, things will change. It's not going to look like this as we go into 2024. Usually when people have less than 3% mortgage rates, they're just not selling. Unless there was a real need there, they weren't selling. And that's probably still true. Between 3 and 4, they're probably not selling. But if rates get down into the 5s, they're going to start thinking about it. I think there's a pent-up selling demand. The listings that didn't come on the market for the last 18 months, some of those people want to move. And as the rates start to come down, and if they hit into those 5s early this year, I think we're going to get a flood of inventory for the spring buying. 4 to 5, they must think before selling. They'll go be definites, and obviously the blue and the green, where they're have mortgage rates closer to what they are now. Those are people obviously be still willing to sell. But there's an interesting thing coming about that. Now, first of all, the lock-in rate, what's happening with that? Lance Lambert, founder of Resi Club, we might be at a peak lock-in effect. Some move-up or lifestyle sellers might be coming to terms with the fact that 3% and 4% mortgage rates aren't returning anytime soon. If the lock-in effect eases up further in 2024, it could help boost existing home sales from the very low levels experienced at the end of 2023. Now, Lance isn't projecting 5.5 million sales this year, but what he is saying is the lock-in effect won't be as detrimental to the housing stock as it has been in the last 18 months. And he sees the inventory opening up, and I agree with him tremendously. Now, here's something else that was interesting. Now, this is just one MLS. It's Bright MLS, all right? But it's one of the largest MLSs in the country. It's in the mid-Atlantic. They just did a survey of their buyers, and what they found out, homeowners who are selling aren't influenced by rates, with 90.5% of successful November sellers stating they were going to sell regardless of what rates were. 9 out of 10 sellers in November said, you know what? I'm selling. I don't really care what the rates are. Now, some of them might have had a higher rate. Some of them might have had no mortgage on their house and used that equity to make the move. But to have that number, 9 out of 10, that means just like buyers got over the sticker shock of some of the higher rates and we're still out there buying, we still sold 4 million houses this year. All right. Now it looks like the sellers are getting over that sticker shock more. And that's perfect proof, that survey showing that 9 out of 10, the rates didn't even have any effect on them. Now, on the buyer side, it's a little bit different than the same survey. Roughly half, 50.6 of November buyers were going to buy regardless of the interest rates. And another quarter, 23.9, purchased with cash. Cash will continue to be king even as rates ease next year. And no matter the direction of rates, households buying out of necessity will continue to find a way to purchase. That last line we know. If you're living in a studio condo, you and your partner, and you'd find out that you're pregnant with twins, you're moving out of that studio condo. You have no choice. So we know there's always going to be situations where people are going to buy, sell and buy. All right. But understand that roughly half said, hey, you know what? I don't really care about the rates. But if we take a look at that same survey and break it down a little more, they said, what caused people to pause their decision to move or to purchase? 72.1% said that, well, the reason, now the people who bought said rates didn't matter. The people still on the fence, those people said, well, 72.1 said mortgage rates stopped them or paused their decision. 34.4% said there wasn't enough inventory. And 17.4% said it was the affordability issue. Home prices are just too high. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is pretty interesting. Mortgage rates are coming down. Inventory is going up. The first two, the major two reasons or challenges are being alleviated. And really the affordability issue with prices stabilizing, mortgage rates coming down and wages going up, even that last one, the affordability piece of that, that's going to lean in the buyer's favor. Now, I'm not saying we're going back to the affordability issues that we had, just a couple of years ago when it was the most affordable ever. With, mortgage rates are at 2.5%. No, we're not going back to that, but we would be going back to normal types of affordability levels. And I think that's going to open that up. We now forecast a consecutive, this is talking about what's going to happen with mortgage rates, because that's going to have an impact on this. The Goldman Sachs said that we now forecast a 3 consecutive 25 basis point cuts in March, May, and June by the Fed. So instead of raising rates, the Fed rate, they think they're going to cut the Fed rate 3 times, March, May, and June, to reset policy rate from a level that Powell has recently taken to describing as well into restrictive territory rather than restrictive. Meaning even Powell is saying we might be where we need to be right now. And if that happens, ladies and gentlemen, and this is not unusual, Goldman Sachs is saying. Mark Zante's saying the same thing. He thinks there's going to be 4 rate cuts next year. He just thinks they're going to be later in the year. But if we get 3 rate cuts by June, well, then we can really guarantee that during the peak buying season, mortgage rates are going to be a lot lower than they are now, and they probably will be in the 5s. What we're projecting. And then, ladies and gentlemen, all heck is going to break loose. We're going to be really super busy. Now, the only way I can use an example in this, let's assume you're in the grocery store. All right. You want to make sure all your shelves are full. It's almost going to be like there's a hurricane coming and everyone's going to come in and buy everything they could possibly buy because they're afraid they're going to be shut down in the house for a couple of days. You have to fill your shelves with listing inventory because the buyers are going to be out buying. Now, another way we could look at this, and we looked at this for, we've shown you part of this graph for a long time, and that's the spread between the 10-year treasury rate and the 30-year fixed rate mortgage. Over time, that spread has been 1.72%. All right, over the last 50 years, that's what it is. If we look at it currently, it's 2.78%. That's the spread at the end of 2023, 2.78, a full percentage point higher than what the 50-year average was. And it's not even an average. If we take a look at the blue and green lines, there's like almost a symbiotic relationship. They move in tandem with one another. And that's at 1.72. I believe very strongly, and Casey believes very strongly, we might not get back to 1.72, but we might get back to 2.00. If we were back to 2.00 today, we'd have 5% mortgage rates. So we do think it's going to trend back that blue and green line are going to come closer together. And that's another reason we believe very strongly that that 5 handle, that first number of the mortgage rate, which they call the handle, that handle is going to be a 5. And again, I think that's going to make it much more affordable for many, many families. And there's also a psychological piece to that. What a lot of experts and forecasters and analysts in the housing industry, they like to look at numbers. And I would say, you know, commercial real estate is all about numbers. Residential real estate is all about people. So one of the great things we've done at KCM over the years, we've said, all right, let's put a piece in, you know, we have interest rates, we have prices, we have inventory. Let's also put in there a metric, human behavior metric, because people react a certain way. And I think that's why we've done a much better job than some of these very well-schooled, well-educated experts and analysts, because they don't really understand the people. You're sitting at a kitchen table with people when they're listing their house. You're sitting with families when they're making a decision to buy a house. You know the people. And we, through you and through our experience, also know how people react. And it's times like this, especially during an election year when things are changing pretty dramatically, all right, in the housing market, that understanding the people part of it is crucially important. Sorry about that. Forgot to turn my phone off. All right, so that's what we have there. Now, another piece that I want to make sure you're aware of is new construction. The market currently requires a high level of new construction inventory due to a persistent lack of resale inventory. Now, resale inventory is going to increase. I don't want you to get away from whatever advances you've made, if you have in your marketplace dealing with builders. I think that the builders are still going to be a big piece of our business. Newly built homes available for sale accounted for 31% of total homes available for sale in November, compared to an approximate 12% historical average. So it's about almost 3 times the percentage of houses that sell, of all houses that sell, have increased. They've gone from 12% to 31% of all sales. Now that number is going to come back down as more existing inventory comes to the market. But one of the ways more existing inventory is going to come to market is the fact that the builders want to stay below, in order to keep their business going, they want to stay below whatever the current rate is. So there's some examples right now that the builders will do buy downs on some of their product, and some people can get a 4% handle today. You have to be aware of what's happening in your marketplace, especially with the new construction, because if you have a seller with a 4-bedroom colonial that's thinking of moving to a 3-bedroom ranch, downsizing because all the kids are finally gone, they might be able to get low 5s, high 4% rates if they buy new construction. And forget about what your deal is going to be on the new construction. You're going to get that 4-bedroom colonial listing. So we have to be much more than we've had in the past. We have to be much more aligned with and associated and connected with the builders in our marketplace, especially the larger builders that are doing major buy downs, because that's a tremendous opportunity for someone that's looking to sell right now. All right? Crucially important. If there's one thing I would tell you to do, go out today and figure out in your marketplace, are there big builders they're offering buy downs, and make sure that every person in your marketplace that has a 4-bedroom colonial knows they can make a move down to something and already get a rate in the low 5s, maybe high 4s. Check it out. Now let's take a look at home prices. And we said that we believe very strongly that they're going to go back to what normal appreciation is, and we'll discuss what that is in a second. We're already seeing a return to normalcy. All right, this is the 49-year average monthly price movement, non-seasonally adjusted, the Case-Shiller. All right, over the last 49 years, every month this is what happens. And we know that at the beginning of the year it slows as the buying market comes, prices rise more quickly, appreciation accelerates. And then when we get into May and June, appreciation starts decelerating. We're not talking about depreciation. We're talking about appreciation decelerating. Now, the last couple of years, you could just throw this graph away. Things were just nuts. But we're again back to normalcy. The black is the graph I just showed you. The green is actually what took place each month this year. So what are we looking at? We're now getting back to normal appreciation. And what do we need desperately in the housing market? Normalcy. We haven't seen normalcy in over a decade. We haven't seen normalcy since 2006, 2005. So you're talking about 19 years. First, we had the craziness of the GFC and prices crashed. And in order to bring the market back, they lowered interest rates, and we had mortgage rates at 2%, 3%, 4%. That wasn't normal. Then we had super appreciation during the pandemic. That definitely wasn't normal. And that caused all sorts of affordability challenges. What we need is to take a deep breath and hope that the market gets normal. Mortgage rates get to a normal number. Not that it's forcing everybody to buy a house because they're afraid they're going to lose out. Just a normal number. Prices get to a normal number, so affordability is okay. Because that's what's going to bring transactions to a normal number, which is about 5.5 million to 6 million every year. That's what we have to hope for, and it looks like we're headed there. Now, I've already told you that we believe strongly that we're going to just be about 5%. Let's talk about what other people are saying. All right, here's the projections from some of the major entities. All right, the MBA, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, the Home Price Expectation Survey, Goldman Sachs, NAR, Zillow, and Realtor.com. If we average them all in, and these things are going to change pretty dramatically with mortgage rates dropping, all of a sudden you're going to see these numbers go up to some degree. But if we average all of them in, we're talking about a 1.5% appreciation this year. And again, I think that these numbers have been adjusted every single month, some pretty dramatically, because as mortgage rates adjust, the thinking on pricing will adjust. One of the things I like to look at every year, all right, and every quarter actually, is the Home Price Expectation Survey. That's Fannie Mae's home price expectation survey, which is produced in partnership with Balsamics, which polls over 100 housing experts across the industry and academia for forecasts of national home price percentage changes in each of the coming 5 calendar years. And what are they saying? They think we're going to finish this year at about 5.92%. The year-to-date number through October from Case-Shiller is 6.3% right now. So they're really, really close to what actually is happening. That's their projection. And this is their projection over the next 5 years. As you already know, we think that their projection in 2024 is a little off. We think it's going to be higher than that. And it's going to be interesting to see in the next quarter whether they adjust theirs up. But even if we keep these numbers, even if we keep these very conservative numbers over the next 5 years, let's take a look at appreciation, because one of the things that people love about home ownership is they can build wealth. And if we're talking about building wealth, one of the major ways families build wealth is through the appreciation in the home, the equity in their home. Well, even with these very conservative numbers as far as home price appreciation in the next couple of years, let's take a look at how that affects the equity situation in a home. Over the next 5 years, they make $72,405. And I always complain on this, ladies and gentlemen, and the reason I complain as much as I do is whenever we're doing a rent versus sale comparison, rent versus buy comparison, I should say. Is it better to rent? Is it better to buy? Well, right now, it's definitely less expensive to rent if we look at the mortgage payment versus the rent payment. But now more and more analysts are starting to say, well, what about appreciation? Since a financial calculation, shouldn't we put appreciation in there? And once we start putting appreciation in there, then all of a sudden it's like, wait a second, which is the better situation? So we'll continue to look at that through the rest of the year. There are a couple of people in the academic circles that are doing studies on that, and we'll report on those studies to you. All right. But right now, even if we keep the conservative, we're still looking at 72,405. Now, I've shown you where we think it's going to be. We believe very strongly it'll be 5%. Here's what has happened month over month for the Case-Shiller and the FHA, which look at same house. It's not median price, which we've attacked many times in the past, but that's not the way to look at prices right now. Median price is pretty relatively useless when it's looking at today's market with volatile interest rates. All right, but what we're looking at is true appreciation, seasonally adjusted true appreciation. And what we're seeing is exactly what we said. We're going back to some sort of normalcy. Now, those numbers only go through October because they have to do the calculation. But the Freddie Mac November number just came out. And again, it's showing strong. There's not one month this year. Now, December might prove to be that month, but there's not one month this year that we saw any depreciation. So we believe the pricing is still going to be strong. It's not going to be 15, 20%. Thank God it's not going to be that. But we are going to see appreciation. Home price gains in the CoreLogic S&P Case-Shiller Index have increased by about 7%. It's actually 6.3 since the beginning of the year and are 1% higher than at the peak in 2022, recovering all the losses regarded in the second half of 2022, recorded in the second half of 2022. So remember we had that, at the end of 2022, all prices are going to crash. They're going to crash 20%. And so we're never going to hit that peak again that we hit in the middle of 2022. Well, we've already hit it. Now you're going to get the people that are going to tell you, well, Steve, you have to understand that Austin isn't there. You're right. It's not. And what about Boise? Boise's not there. You're right. But I do want to let you know that over the last 3 years in Boise, I think the depreciation level was 44%. So if they're down 8%, that means that over the last 4 years, they went up 36%. That's not such a bad thing. So there are pockets that are contracting right now, but that's all they are pockets. If we took every single zip code and we said, is our prices up or are prices down? And we made all the prices up are green and all the prices down are red, and we put it on a map of the United States, it would be a green map with a couple of red dots. So understand, as a nation, we're in much better shape. But again, reversion to the mean, the average price, the average appreciation, annual appreciation, is 4.92% over the last 42 years. And I think we're going to go right back to that, just about 5%. With mortgage rates dropping, demand for homes in early 2024 is likely to be strong and will again put pressure on prices similar to trends observed in early 2023. Most markets will continue to reach new home price heights over the course of 2024. Selma Hype from CoreLogic. There's not going to be no crashing of prices. You're going to hear that, just like you hear at the beginning of every year. You're going to hear that. And in an election year, you're definitely going to hear that. That's not going to happen. We're also not going to have to 15, 20% appreciation either. And let's put that all together. And let's say, well, what does this all mean? And let me give you a 90-day plan. A 90-day work plan for the beginning of 2024. Number one, stay focused, realizing this is an election year. There's going to be crazy headlines. There are going to be crazy narratives. There are going to be crazy stories. Come to both the deep dive and the monthly market report. Go to David's a podcast. He has some great people on this podcast. Make sure that you're reading the blog every day. We'll give you the truth when everyone else is going to begin to give you their truth, if you know what I mean by their truth. There's going to be some craziness this year. You have to stay focused. We'll help you with that. Become the expert on everything real estate. Make sure that all those wacky things that you hear, when someone brings that up to you, you know the counter argument. Well, Steve, how can I possibly do that this son? You're a KCM member. Just stay involved with us. Make sure you're listening to the MMR every single month. Make sure you're doing real talks. Make sure you're putting videos out so that people understand what's taking place. Short 1-minute videos. And get yourself involved in what you're already paying for. We have the answer for your success this year. Just get involved with it. Broadcast the mortgage rate. People are still confused about where mortgage rates are. You have to be the person waving the banners. Ladies and gentlemen, since it's January, expires, FSBOs expires. Folks, after every single expired listing, don't worry about whether you thought it was overpriced. Maybe that was a bad first agent. Get in there and find out if those people really want to sell. And for the people that are not yet on the market, you know, we would offer CMA. No, let's make sure that we're offering the pair. We give you tremendous support with that. We have the pair report, the professional equity assessment report. It's a couple of pages long. It's very easy to do. Offer that. Let people know, well, you know, how much equity do you think you've built over the last 3 years? How much equity do you think you built over the last year? Once you're talking to a homeowner about the amount of equity in their home, who knows where that conversation is going to go? So offer a free pair to everyone. And the last thing, ladies and gentlemen, prospect, prospect, prospect. You know, for the last 18 months, you know, if back in the day you had to, you know, do 100 prospecting calls to get one listing lead. Well, this past year, you might have had to do 300 to get one listing. 2024, you might have to do 50 to get a listing lead. Your return on investment on your time and the effort you make, whether you're mailing, whether you're door knocking, whether you're calling, your return on investment is going to be much greater this year than it was even prior to this craziness of the last 18 months. Because there's a pent-up buying demand. There's a pent-up selling demand. That's going to be released to the market this spring. You have to take advantage of it. The way to take advantage of it is fill your shelves right now. Well, that's the report, and I apologize. I went 6 minutes over. We usually try to keep it at 30 minutes.
All right. Love to get some of your guys' thoughts. The pair is a market analysis that KCM has. They have like this little tool. And so if you join KCM, then you can take advantage of that. But basically any kind of, you know, substitute that for a CMA or equity evaluation. That's what it is. Let's see. Oh, question about what are the limitations on using KCM info slides in our marketing social posts? I'm sure they want you, of course, to be a member to use all of that. But I think if you screenshot a slide, you're probably okay and you do a video on it, right? Or you just talk about it. But they would obviously want you to be a member. Where can we get this transcript? The slides I uploaded to the Facebook group, if you're part of that, which I think you are, Beth. So those are in there. I uploaded those right before the call. Jim said, yes, love the 90-day plan. Prospect, prospect, prospect. Yes, I agree. It's not always the thing that, you know, we really want to do, but it's the one thing that needs to be done in our business. And especially, it really probably wasn't part of our marketing plan for the last few years when it was so busy, maybe a little bit last year. But we got some really great talking points too, to talk through. So as part of your lead gen strategy, it might be
using some of these things in your conversations. Like, how many of you broadcast the interest rates to your, like, out on social or to your clients? I can't see everybody, so if you raised your hand, I missed it, but I think it was a great point, right? You're the resource for all things real estate. And even if you do a video or an email with another agent, right? Or sorry, with a mortgage lender, that would be amazing too. So, Chris, were you going to say something?
Yeah, if anybody can relate, like I got fatigued last year, like broadcasting. Hey, we can still sell your house. Hey, you can still buy a house. We're in a buying window. Like if anybody else feels it, like just keep pushing through, because now you guys, we actually have something to broadcast that's like really worthwhile. So just remember that, like last year I think we kind of broadcasted to stay in front of people and like hope to unlock some inventory, make some deals, get some stuff together in a tough year. But like this first quarter of this year, like legitimately don't let off the gas pedal, because I've been close. I've been like, dude, we've been shouting this from the rooftops that we're in a buying window since, I'm like ready to take a rest, but it's like, it's time really to re-engage the messaging. So appreciate all the slides. Like 2 or 3 of these slides will carry your content for the next like 2 or 3 weeks,
Yeah, I thought so too. I took some screenshots. I was like, oh, this one felt like a little more easy to explain, like after you watch it. Sometimes, when we watch these, I'm like, okay, I took notes, but man, what was that about again? What's that percentage? And this time I felt like there was some really good stuff we could use. So yeah, for sure. Love it. So Hale, you had some good points as well. Do you want to unmute and talk what you put in the
Sure.
chat?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big prospector, so I built my business, frankly, from prospecting. In this market, it's just, the calling people it's not going to do it. It's going to be so aggressive. I think we're going to have less inventory than we've had even during COVID. Just that's what it's looking like, especially since rates are coming down. It's going to be crazy. And I would say for everybody here that if you don't put all the work in now, the second half of the year may be dismal. And so don't wait. There's another thing. You don't have to wait all year to hit your goals, right? I would make this quarter the quarter where you put every ounce of effort into doing what you can so that the rest of the year works out for you.
That's such a good
be a lot of agents prospecting, because as we saw, if you've been to EXP, I was at EXPCon, that was the rotating theme of the whole conference was prospect, canceled expireds, FSBOs. And I think there's a hell of a lot of agents that are going to be doing it. And so every seller is going to have so much noise of their phone ringing. And so you have to break through the noise by doing something that's going to put you above and beyond. And so I put this little quote that one of my mentors always told me, which is, in a room of red dresses, the green dress gets all the attention.
So true.
Yeah.
And you and Chris are saying like such similar things, right? If all you've talked about and all everybody else is going to talk about is this one thing, you have to change what you're talking about, what you know, how you're saying it, who you're saying it to, in order to really get through that noise.
Yeah. Yeah. And learn how to close, because if you're coming in, and I'm not saying you have to be rude or anything like that, but learn how to close, because if you're coming in aggressively, if you're coming in aggressively, passively, thinking that because you're nice, they're going to like you, it doesn't work. So learn how to close, and learn how to close multiple times in a call or multiple times at the door. You're going to have to level up your skills dramatically.
Yeah. Where do you think someone can learn closing skills?
I haven't gotten too far into, I would say definitely from reps, right? There's a lot of training on that.
Yeah. Sorry, it wasn't like where could you learn those? Yes, definitely real estate B school as well. Yep. Role play. Yeah.
And like closing doesn't have to be some magical, fancy close. It's just like, well, why don't we get together tomorrow at 5? No, that's not going to work. I can't meet. Oh, understood. Yeah, tomorrow at 5, we have Monday Night Football. I'll see you Tuesday at 5. No, Tuesday's not going to work. Oh, you're right. You're probably working late. It's the beginning of the year. I'll see you Saturday at 10. So that's 3 closes.
Mm.
So don't think it has to be anything fancy that you're going to say these prolific words and the seller's going to be like, oh, yes, I want to meet. You have to really, if you can't get in the door, you got to kind of push your way in the door that's friendly and kind of like, oh, I don't mind. Let's just meet anyways type of a close, right? But you got to close, because on the phone or in the presence of a client, I always say there's 3 phases: the introduction, who you are, the process or the presentation is, so like why you're there, here's what you can do. But the magic doesn't happen in any of those. The magic happens in the close. So learn how to close.
That's good. That's right. And you're right. Being nice doesn't get anybody to their next goal. Just like giving up and saying, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. So that's such a good point. It doesn't have to be rude or overly aggressive. That's not actually what closing is. And Richard put a good statement in the chat. Closing is nudging to the next step.
Yep. And so think about, I'm going to give you just everybody here 2 tips. Well, number 1, just kind of feeding off Richard, think about your real estate game like a football field. And so you may throw a Hail Mary, or you may get pushed 2 yards back, and then you just got to keep on moving the ball down the field to get closer to the goal. So learn to ask really good questions, and those are probing questions, the who, what, where, how, when, and why type questions. And there's a pattern that may work for you, which is ask 2 logical questions, listen carefully for the answer, repeat, but don't repeat but don't repeat exactly what they say. So if someone's like, I already have an agent, don't say, oh, you already have an agent, because that's kind of an embedded command. You can say something such as, oh, you have 1 agent in mind. When are you going to interview the 2 other agents? What 2 other agents? So things like that. And then ask 2 logical questions, repeat, affirm, and then close.
Very good. Those are such good points, Sohail. I'm so glad that you spoke up, because I think it helps us think through our conversations and prospecting, and ultimately what our goal is when we're talking to people, right? It is to get the questions out. It's not to have all the answers all the time. It's to understand what they're looking for, help them to move to the next level, let them know there is options when they say they have an agent, or they've already found the house, or whatever they're saying to get you off the phone, because they're busy, but they know they want to do this thing. Or maybe they didn't know, but they actually do or need to. So really great shares, Sohail. Thank you.
Come from contribution. And someone may not know what that means. There's a really good in the movie Gran Turismo. There's a really good part, if anybody's ever seen that, where the priest is coming to, I forgot, what's that actor's name?
I've not seen it.
Oh, does anybody know?
Clint Eastwood.
Clint Eastwood, thank you.
Okay.
So after his wife died, the priest comes to check on him, and he's like, hey, you little pimple face, like punk, get off my property. And he even tries to shut the door on him, and the guy puts his foot in the door, and he's like, I promised your wife I would check on you. That's contribution. So when you're talking to a seller, if you believe that you're the best agent for the job, and they're like, I'm not interested, like, contribution is saying, I understand you're not. But here's the deal. If I don't help you to get this sold, you're going to end up with Agent Schmuckatelli, who's going to take your listing or take you through properties you don't want and really screw up the sale for you. And because I'm here from contribution, I just can't let that happen.
Yeah. And that doesn't sound slimy or salesy.
No, it's contribution, right? If Mother Teresa was coming to save your soul and you were like, I'm not interested, do you think she's just going to leave you alone?
No.
That's contribution.
Very good. All right, guys, such a great call. Thank you so much for all of you that shared. And even if you didn't, your attentiveness and really working hard to hone your craft by attending these calls and, making sure that who we work with, they're getting the best of the best. So I hope you guys all have a great week, and we will see you next week. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.